Marshal Idriss Deby Itno is a Chadian politician and former military officer who has been the president of Chad since 1990. He is also head of the ruling Patriotic Salvation Movement. Deby is of the Bidyat clan of the Zaghawa ethnic group. He took power at the head of a rebellion against President Hissène Habré in December 1990 and has since survived various rebellions and coup attempts against his own rule. He won elections in 1996 and 2001. And after term limits were eliminated, he won again in 2006, 2011, and 2016. He added Itno to his surname in January 2006. He is a graduate of Muammar Gaddafi's World Revolutionary Center. Deby's multi-decade rule has been described as authoritarian by several international media sources. Deby was born in the village of Badoba, approximately 190 kilometers from Fadar in northern Chad. His father was a poor herder, who belongs to the Bidayat clan of the Zaghawa community. After attending the Quranic school in Tain, he continued his studies at the École Française in Fadar and later at Franco-Arab School in Abesh. He also attended the Lycée Jacques Modiner in Bangor and also holds a bachelor's degree in science. After finishing school, he entered the officers' school in N'Djamena. From there he was sent to France for training, returning to Chad in 1976 with a professional pilot certificate. He remained loyal to the army and to President Félix Malhomme even after the country's central authority crumbled in 1979. He returned from France in February 1979 and found the country had become a battleground for many armed groups. Deby tied his fortunes to those of Hissène Habré, one of the chief Chadian warlords. A year after Habré became president in 1982, Deby was made commander-in-chief of the army. He distinguished himself in 1984 by destroying pro-Libyan forces in eastern Chad. In 1985, Habré sent him to Paris to follow a course at the École de Guerre. On his return in 1986, he was made chief military advisor to the presidency. In 1987, he confronted Libyan forces on the field, with the help of France in the so-called Toyota War, adopting tactics that inflicted heavy losses on enemy forces. During the war, he also led a raid on Matan al-Sara air base in Kufra, which located in Libyan territory. A rift emerged on 1 April 1989 between Habré and Deby over the increasing power of the Presidential Guard. According to Human Rights Watch, Habré was found responsible for widespread political killings, systematic torture, and thousands of arbitrary arrests, as well as ethnic purges when it was perceived that group leaders could pose a threat to his rule, including many of Deby's Zaghawa ethnic group who supported the government. Increasingly paranoid, Habré accused Deby, Mahamat Itno, the Minister of Interior, and Hassan Jamas, Commander-in-Chief of the Chadian army, of preparing a coup d'état. Deby first fled to Darfur, and then to Libya, which he was welcomed by Muammar Gaddafi in Tripoli, while Itno and Jamas were arrested and killed. Since all three were ethnic Zaghawa, Habré started a targeted campaign against the group which saw hundreds seized, tortured and imprisoned. Dozens died in detention or were summarily executed. In 2016, Habré was convicted of war crimes by a specially created international tribunal in Senegal. Once in Libya, Deby gave the Libyans detailed information about Kia operations in Chad. Gaddafi offered Deby military aid to seize power in Chad in exchange with Libyan prisoners of war. Deby moved to Sudan and formed the Patriotic Salvation Movement, an insurgent group supported by Libya and Sudan, which started operations against Habré in October 1989. He unleashed a decisive attack on 10 November 1990. And on 2 December Deby's troops marched unopposed into the capital, N'Djamena. Idriss Deby assumed Chad's presidency in 1990, and has been re-elected with a majority of votes every 5 years. After 3 months of provisional government, on 28 February 1991, a charter was approved for Chad with Deby as president. During the following 2 years, Deby faced a series of coup attempts as government forces clashed with pro-Habré rebel groups, such as the Movement for Democracy and Development. seeking to quell dissent. In 1993, Chad legalized political parties and held a national conference which resulted in the gathering of 750 delegates. The government, trade unions and the army to discuss the establishment of a pluralist democracy. However, unrest continued. The Comité de Sursaut National pour le Pax et la Démocratie and a reformulated MDD clashed with government forces from 1994 to 1995. Deby, in the mid-1990s, gradually restored basic functions of government and entered into agreements with the World Bank and IMF to carry out substantial economic reforms. A new constitution was approved by referendum in March 1996, followed by a presidential election in June. Deby placed on the first round but fell short of a majority. He was then elected